Paul, I asked a couple of the guys this question too. A couple of days ago, this is the last place you wanted to be, and you're back here. I'm just curious, a little angry being back here? How's it feel to be back in Edmonton when you never wanted to come back here this season?
I don't agree with any part of your question, my friend. Not any of it. Pick a day and pick a time in the question. The answer is completely different. Would you take this? I'd cut your arm off for this, Dan, this opportunity. At the start of the game, you'd say no, and at the end of the game, you'd say, hell yeah, let's do it. So it's the sacrifice I'm willing to make. But you get to pick the arm. So I'm a giver.
Right side, second row, Eric.
Hey, Paul. You had Tuomo Ruutu as a player for
I did.
300 games in Carolina.
Yeah.
What kind of an impact has he made on this run, and did you ever have an idea he'd be a coach?
I don't know that I did about the coaching. Like, he was a rambunctious player. Like, he was heavily caffeinated in the game. He was, most of what I would say to him is you don't have to hit everybody. And there's not a lot of guys that, based on the style of hockey we play, that you get to say that to, but he was so intense. And then young too. I ran into him in Finland, and I'm not sure which tour it was on. So we've been to Finland twice. I was there with Carolina and then with Winnipeg as well. And I ran into him at a coaching clinic. They had the global series. They bring coaches in and we interact with them, and I ran into him. It was great. And we started to talk hockey, and you get a completely different side of the fella now, right? He's really bright and hardworking. He as hard as he worked in the game, he works at coaching. Where he's been great for me in the 2 years here is he's an ex-player, and he has an awareness. So there are players, I mean, the spectrum is as wide as you can be. I had a captain once said, you need to show me more video. This is a good named player too. He says, because the puck drops and I really don't know what happens. Honest to God. So, and then you have your Sam Reinharts and your Ron Francis's that can just shift by shift give you exactly what happened in a game. So you never really know. Having a player on your staff, there was a play last year early on, I don't know, it was in the coach's room, so you got to take this as skewed. I was down on the guy for not making a play, and he said, Paul, that's a really hard play. He can't make that play. Look, and then he pointed out the 7 things that I would never know: the angle of the stick, the size, the speed, the stuff that I don't get. So that player insight's been good. He spends a lot of time on the offensive part of our game, which is a challenge because we are a defense-based team in a lot of ways, even though we enjoy the offensive part. So he has to kind of fight for his time with that. And then there's the easy interaction with the Finnish players that we have. And he's harder on those guys than the rest. So he's been really interesting. I can't tell you that I would have called him a coach back then, but he was young. It's also a long time ago. I didn't spend as much time with the players back then as I do now to get to know them a little bit better. But he's a coach, and he's a head coach. So I think he can hold a room.
Left side, front row.
Coach, we're hearing a lot about pressure in the next 24 hours or so. Players obviously lean on players lean on coaches, but in moments like this, in a big game, in a big situation, where do you go to deal with pressure? Who do you go to?
Well, so much of it for me is the last game, right? We all have a section of this that we're responsible for, and if you like your section, you don't feel it the same way. So you're looking forward to the next. Can we make some improvements? Can we make some adjustments? I've kind of spent more time understanding the perspective of it all, my cosmic insignificance. And then I also allow myself to take the pressure and be a part of it. We just fight so hard to get here, right? That it feels differently. I understand the question. I would just say it feels differently on the inside, I think, than you feel it on the outside. Because it's a desired pressure. You want it. So yeah, you feel it, but I'm not trying to get away from it. I mean, I've mentioned earlier, spent some time with mindfulness training and all those kind of things, but it doesn't put you on an oasis in the middle of the third period. What it does is it lets you hopefully be present in all that pressure. And I don't enjoy it's the right word, but certainly ride it.
Left side, third row.
Paul, you mentioned adjustments now, and I've heard you in previous series talk about there aren't that many adjustments that really happen. But I'm curious, when you win 3 in a row, do you get the urge of, okay, things are going well, I don't need to make a lot of changes? And then when you lose a couple in a row, how do you balance that, of the urge of wanting to tweak something or change something because things aren't going your way necessarily?
The adjustments come for, I would assume, every team after every game. So in every game that we've played, there possibly, with these, I'm not sure, I'm going to have to reach hard on game 4, but there are big chunks of our game I like, we don't want to touch, and maybe we just want to reinforce that that's the driver. I do believe there's a bit of a cascading effect to your entire games, that if the 2 or 3 things that are most important to your identity are there, the rest of it falls in place. And you don't have to reach too far down that tree to find a problem, if you will, and try to fix that one, where a lot of times you just got to get your core right. And once your core is right, all the other things that maybe seem like small things get handled. The other idea would be, I don't know if I explained that well, if you walk in and you see 100 fires, pick the 3 biggest ones, get those out, and a lot of the other ones will just burn themselves out on their own. That maybe makes more sense to what my brain was trying to spit out.
Left side, fourth row, Nick.
This question is not to pick on Mikula or Kulikov or anybody else, it's to kind of understand
But
the
you named
challenge.
them.
Well, but what are they
Why don't we
supposed
start this over? A couple of your defensemen.
Well, the Perry goal, what are they supposed to do against McDavid? Do you delete that video clip? And if you do show it to them, like, what are you coaching them on for next
Are you
time?
talking about the drive backdoor Perry goal?
Yes.
There was neither of those guys. They were fine. Well, I'm not ratting one of my guys, other guys. Oh, clearly it was one of the other guys. But everybody, yeah. So there would be coverage, and then there are things that have to happen based on that speed, and then other people have to adjust off that. It was not a very difficult read. I think the mistake happened probably 25 seconds earlier. The mistake happened almost off the change, because we had defensemen trying to get, so we had a forward hold, and he was on the ice longer than he wanted to be. He made a very smart decision not to change, but he needed to, and then he was late getting to where he needed to get to. But I'll tell Cooley and Meeks you were talking about.
Left side, back row, Celine.
Paul, what do people in this room get wrong about pressure in the Stanley Cup playoffs?
Well, I would have to understand how you view it first.
I mean, the narrative being that it is on the Florida Panthers, given the past couple of games. Like, what do we get wrong?
I don't know what I want to answer that question. I'll answer it for you after. No, it's a fair question. I think how would I explain it to you? When you have nothing to lose, there's a freedom to that, right? There's also a danger to it, right? There was a great line in one of those cheesy, the most dangerous man in the world is the guy who's got nothing to lose, right? That idea. And then when you have something to protect sometimes, you feel the pressure to protect it. So there's an evening out in this series now. I think it's close, the pressure's closer to you. I'm not trying to put it on them. We'll take all of it. Just feel free. But the stake is there now more for both teams where it was just there for us, right? The goal, it's closer now for them. And now that part evens out. I believe it.
We'll take 2 more. Third row on the right, Wish.
Paul, your team had over 80% of the shot attempts in the last 2 periods of Game 5. Is that score effect, or did you maybe see some switch get flipped for where they're looking more like the Panthers in the first 2 games?
There's a score effect to that for sure. I was most pleased with our first period. Right. The idea that we need more in that game, I don't think is true. I was most pleased with our first period.
Last one, right side, back row.
Hey, Paul.
There's no security here, clearly.
They let anyone in,
Man,
yeah.
have credentials.
Greetings from
Check.
Winnipeg. I just wanted to ask you about another member of your coaching staff, a guy that's been with you for a long time, and Jamie, and what it just means to experience this with him. He obviously knows you very well. He's been through a lot of ups and downs. What's it like to kind of have him at your side, and what are the values that he really brings to you?
That's going to be a long one, and I'm not going to get it right. So, we've been together, I don't know, is it 10 years? It's close to 10 years. He's a Stanley Cup champion, right? He's been in the 3-2 game before, so there's a piece of experience that I don't have that he has. He's also an incredibly strong man. I don't think it's a secret what he and Tina have been. This is 10 years, and it's real. So the things that they go through, and yet he comes to work the exact same day is inspirational. You have a hard time walking in feeling sorry for yourself when you know what he and Tina are fighting every day for 10 years. And then you do have to be a bit in awe about his production, the things that he does on a daily basis. So I like to get into the rink early. He's never in his office because he's already in the gym, right? And that'll be the first workout of the day. God, I hate that guy. Then he'll go through the game almost in the same manner than I do. There's about a 3 to 4 hour cost on that. He'll do power play video, and then he'll do individual video with every guy. Helps us build practice, never shuts up in practice in a good way. Very, very energetic. So for me, we have different kind of brains. He is hyper disciplined in the way he thinks and the way he produces. And I think we're a great pair together. We coach together. I get it, I'm the head coach. When he was in Winnipeg, he was the associate head coach. Here, those labels weren't available at the time. We're new guys coming into a new management group. So we just coach together, and we do different things. And this is true. When we beat the Rangers, I got 16 texts. He got 125. Because he connected with all those people, and I was kind of like, yeah, I'll call that guy back later. And I just, 2 years. He's just an incredible human being.